Hey, what's up, folks? This is Dustin Garman, of course, with another episode of Tell Us About Yourself. Of course, with my co host. Be sure to throw chairs. And I'm going to let Chibi actually introduce our guest today because I'm going to butcher it. Boom.
Couldn't have done any better myself. Couldn't have done any better than myself. There you go.
Alrighty, and before we get started, I have just a few announcements. Of course, I wanted to mention we are 2.5 weeks till Grand Gathering. I am so pumped. But anyway, on top of that, of course, I want to remember Bob Dunn. And I've been trying to keep up to date. I know he's been in and out of the hospital. Remember Joshua Bryan, aka Mr. Giggles. Another one was actually mentioned. It wasn't mentioned on the show, but we were talking to him before our show aired last week, and Taylor Schwab told me about Danielle Bias. It's Jim Bias's wife, and I talked to her, and she actually she okayed me. She wanted me to just inform y'all that she's been really sick, in and out of the hospital, and unfortunately, her body is not it's not breaking down the nutrients enough and going into her body like it should, nutrients wise, I should say. Um, but I just want to keep Jim and keep the Bias family in y'all's prayers as well. Other than that, yeah, PoppinTwist, it's all you, buddy.
on on that somber note, I have a hangnail, and I hope that it's okay. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I hope everyone is feeling well. It's never any fun to go through all that, and not at all. And I make the joke that when you turn 40, your warranty expires, and stuff just starts to happen. But the best thing I heard about aging and injury, or aging and not feeling well, is Louis C.K. had a routine where he talked about that. He goes, my ankle hurts. So I went to the doctor, and my doctor said, yeah, it's just worn out. And he said, oh, it's great. So can I do like some physical therapy? Can I take some medicine? He goes, no, it's just worn out. You're getting old. He's like, oh, it's like I can do surgery. He's like, nope, nothing you can do, man. It's just it just happens.
Age is undefeated.
That's it. That's it. But keeping a young heart, that's the way to fight it. That's how I look at it. I'm the
Now,
oldest 13-year-old you know.
now, one thing I was wanting to mention is because I know 2 years ago we had you on season one with me and Fox, and
Yeah.
one thing, 2 years, the LFF is expanding. There's a lot of new players and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to just kind of just a little bit of a recap. You don't have to go in detail as much. I mean, you can talk about it as much as you want to, but
Right.
I just wanted to say that also mention that you were on Comic Book Men.
I
You've been
was.
featured on there.
I was episode 11 of season 7, so I got in just under the wire on that one because season 7 was its final season. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get on the show. It was probably a top 10 benchmark in the Mr. PoppinTwist career, plus just in my personal life. It was just amazing, and it was one of those things that I tried 3 times to get on the show. I got a little further along every time. And then when I got in there and when I applied for the show, I said, you know what, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I sent 2 tapes. One video of me as Derek, just the toy and collector comic book guy, and then one is Mr. PoppinTwist. And when I got through casting, and they said, okay, we want Mr. PoppinTwist. So I was just thankful that they literally, I mean, they name dropped. They said my name dozens of times, so I got that. So that was awesome. I got to put a balloon on national television, which was a lot of fun. And you can still watch the show, which is the best part. Wherever you can find Comic Book Men, it's episode 11. It's the one with the Pez factory. But we shot 45 minutes of nonstop talking in that, and they cut it down to 5 minutes. But I'll still take 5 minutes on national television. I have no complaints about that.
Nice.
I still
No
talk to a couple of the
complaints.
guys. I knew Ming from the convention circuit, so I talked to Ming. And I see Mike when I'll swing by every so often. Once a year, I take my kids down. They hang out for a week in Pennsylvania with my brother and his kids. So I'll swing back through Jersey and stop by on my way either down or on my way back up. So so Mike, they still stay, they're still friendly with me. So I didn't embarrass myself too badly.
It's a plus.
Okay, good. They go, there you go. Thank you very much.
So moving along, I know it's been 2 years, a little gap right there since we've had you. Has anything like event wise taken place in between then?
Well, I mean, obviously the world's a different place now than it was even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I hit a, like everybody, every entertainer kind of has the same story to tell, especially live entertainers whose job is to draw a crowd. So when COVID hit in 2020, my entire business was wiped out for about 6 months. I had an entire calendar full of gigs, and they were gone in the span of 3 weeks. So I'm just starting now in 2023 to get back. 2022 was a pretty good year. 2020, 2021 were a little bit loose. So so I was able to get, but the cool thing about not being in a lot of jobs and working the gigs as much is that I had time to kind of sit at home and figure some stuff out. So I built the coloring book project that I did last year, which made $500 for charity, which is not bad for a little rinky-dink 16-page coloring book that I only sold at like conventions and wrestling shows. And, the occasional friend of mine said, hey, throw me a book, so that was pretty cool to do something like that. And then I'm doing that again. I have another volume that I'm working on right now that I'm hoping to have out by the end of March. I should have the next volume out. So that's with 16 brand new artists that weren't in the first book, because my goal is, I mentioned, I was talking off air with you guys before, my 50th birthday is 2024. So my goal is in 2024 to release a combined version of both the coloring books, volume 1 and volume 2, with a couple of extra pieces thrown in there, and then I'm going to perpetually sell that one, and half the profits will always go to charity. So so
Nice.
half will let me make it, and half will make me go to charity. I've never had any intention. I had a lot of these artists and people who did this stuff for me, and they put the pages in the book for me, and that, so to show my gratitude to them, I'm not going to ever put a profit on that, because that doesn't make any sense, not personally. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to just keep it going. So so the half and half will allow me to keep printing the book and then also pay the charity at at the same time. So everybody wins. And then I can, I can have it out there. I'm figuring, I've got a year to figure out how to do it. Like, because people ask me, oh, can we mail it? I'm like, well, yeah, but mailing it costs money, and this costs money. And so if I can try to, I'm trying to keep the impact on my wallet a little lessened, so that the people can get the money for the charity better. So but yeah, so I have that, so I've got some cool artists. I have a couple of surprises in that one. I have a couple surprises down the road. So so that's the one cool thing that came from from the last 2 years. Other than that, I got back into conventions again, which is nice, because I always say that I love to be at a convention because it forces me to make stuff. If I sit in my house with my big bag of balloons and try and say, you know what, I'm going to make something today, I actually get buried under the idea that I have too many things in my head that I want to make. Because I mean, I've made over 200 wrestlers, and there's still wrestlers I could make. And it's hard to pick another, so when I get to go to a convention and there's a guest list at the convention, I know who's there. So I know that's my palette. That's who I have to play from and build from and make for. And that fine tunes my intention and allows me to be able to go into that situation and go, okay, like I'm going here, and the woman who played Sonya Blade in the Mortal Kombat 3 game is going to be there. So I'm going to make Sonya Blade from Mortal Kombat 3.
Nice.
Or like, this past summer, I had the opportunity, went to one of my local shows here, which is the show I've been at 8 years out of 10. I'm hoping to be back this year. And they say, Sam Jones, who was Flash Gordon, people of my era, that movie was a huge deal. That Flash Gordon movie, it's cheesy. We all know it's cheesy. It's campy as heck, but it's just it's seminal for kids growing up, and when I grew up, So I was a big fan. I still am a big fan of that movie. So having an opportunity to make a Flash Gordon balloon for Flash Gordon himself is really kind of fun.
Nice. Nice.
That's the part of the job that's like we always, the comment about the catchphrase for Super Show is to make all your wrestling fantasies come true without taking a chair shot.
Yep.
My geek is allowed to come out, but I get to hide it behind my craft, so I can kind of do both at the same time. And so yeah, so I think in the last 2 years I put out some of my better work, balloon wise. Like I built a torso. Well, I built a 66 Adam West Batman from the waist up. Wow. And I put it inside the 66 Batmobile. So wow. It looks like he's driving the Batmobile, and it really is a cool shot. I got pictures on my socials from that. It's like, I've gotten into that point of I can make the balloon, but I want to make the balloon and then put it in a situation that's even better. Obviously getting the balloon in the hands of somebody is the best part. Have I ever told you guys the Bully Ray story?
No.
All right, so
you can go ahead.
So this is one of my fun stories about in wrestling. So like I said, I made over 200 wrestler balloons. I've been fortunate enough to have Mick Foley share my stuff. I've been fortunate enough to have Lash LaRue and Mark Marrow, cut promos for me and for different things. So I've made some cool friendships. Again, if you talk to the 13-year-old me or 15-year-old me or 20-year-old me, going, one of these days you're going to have a conversation with Lash LaRue, or you're gonna be in Mick Foley's house. I mean, I'm thinking you're lying to me,
Yeah.
So like every day every day I count my blessings. Trust me on that one. So yeah, so I'm at a show in Velvet. This is when he was dating Velvet Sky. This is a couple of years ago. But so Velvet Sky knew my work through various mutual friends that we had. So and we met for the first time at New York Comic Con like years ago, before I was even really doing balloons. So she kind of got to see the progress move on through time. So I had never met Bully Ray before, but Tommy Dreamer was there, and he knows my stuff because he knows my stuff through Mick and everything else. So you got Tommy Dreamer who knows my stuff. You got Velvet Sky who knows my stuff, and Bully Ray who has no idea. But notoriously, Bully Ray plays full gimmick when he goes into any public appearance. So so he's not smiling, he's not glad handing. He's he's a tough guy, and he's a tough guy. But so my goal was to try to break that. So she said make a Bully Ray balloon, because I've made a Bubba Ray Dudley balloon, but never made a Bully Ray balloon before. So I'm making a Bully Ray balloon, and I'm making every piece, and I kind of stash it in my shirt, and I walk over and I like put my body in between the two of them so she can see the balloon and he can't. So he has no idea what I'm doing, but her face is showing that she's enjoying what's happening. So he's getting more and more involved in this whole process. As it's a cheesy little effect, but it gets the gets the emotions flowing. So I finally get the balloon finished, and I go over and I give it to him, and he gets this big smile on his face, like he's a 10-year-old kid. So I have a picture of me and Bully Ray, who notoriously never does this, is actually smiling.
Wow.
So I call that a feather in my cap. But yeah, so and that's the thing. Like some of the toughest guys, or some of the gruffest, because guys, like guys have been around for a while. You give them a balloon of themselves, and they are transported to a different time. It's the best. That's the best gift that I can give. It's the best gift that I can receive, because and it doesn't matter. And again, I can make a balloon dog or a balloon flower, or a balloon ladybug. It doesn't matter. I'm going to get an effect from people anyway, because the balloons are cute and people like balloons. I said my job is easy. To bring fun to an event by twisting balloons. That's the easy part of the job, because balloons equal they equal kid stuff. Mm-hmm. But when you make the figures of somebody and they see themselves reflected in the balloons, it flips a different switch in the in the brain, and I've had the chance to do that a couple of times for people inside the community. I've made I made a Candyman balloon, and I've made I've made Gangone, and I've made the Boss, and I've made Calais, and I've made I've made probably 2 or 3 more. Well, I made Eddie Fury, but that's a whole different story. But
the balloon probably looked better. No, I'm just no,
I put a balloon Eddie Fury on the line if I lost our match. And I lost our match. So I years ago, I think Steve, he said, there was like jobber of the year, like, PoppinTwist was the jobber of the year. And there are times I feel like I am the jobber of the pretty much the decade. I've lost a lot of big matches. I don't come out, on the winning side a lot of those matches, but my goal is always to have a good time and to give the other people a good time. But yeah, I've lost more times than I've won. So as I made my comment when I went for the title against John P, like if I was in this game to win titles, I'd be a very, very sad man. But because I'm not, and I'm in this game to have a good time, I'm a very happy man. So yeah. Okay, sure. This is so it's a fun story. So Steve's on Long Island. On Long Island, I'm on Long Island. We lived, even back then, in a tertiary kind of world. He was trying to release a wrestling themed card game, and I'm a guy who does wrestling themed balloons. So we'd end up like in the same kind of places, you know, plying our trade in on the other side of a convention, or the other side of a room. So we knew about each other. I knew about, so I knew of him and he knew of me, but we never actually had a chance to meet. Because we had friends in common, in the wrestlers, like Rage. I've known Rage for a very long time. So I knew Rage was in the game. So this is a cool, so it's just one of those kind of things. So then, as luck would have it, we actually both got booked to appear at this small gaming show in a library called Octocon in like 2016. Yeah, I guess, give or take. Yeah, I think 2016, end of 2015, early 2016. And he contacted me before we were going there. He said, would you be able to make me a balloon version of Snake Pit, my character Snake Pit, and a balloon version of El Super Hombre? And I said, yeah. So we'll settle up. I said, no, we'll do a trade. I'll tell you what, I'll make the balloons for you, and you give me some decks, and then I can learn how to play this game that I know very little about. And he said, sure. So I made, the picture exists around. I got it. It's old at this point, obviously, but I had a picture of the balloon is El Super Hombre holding Snake Pit on his shoulders, like in a torture rack kind of thing. And it sat down, So I traded those balloons for the first 3 box sets back when they were actually boxes, after the Chinese food boxes, but in those side by side boxes. So I got the first, the 6 characters, but the running joke is, and which is why I still have this today, I still have an original wrapped EDM linen version in the full, it's the full deck, still sealed, because when I got the box set, I got 2 EDMs in the box set and never got a gold standard. So, and I think I don't know if I think it's either Pagillo, or it might be John P. Someone I know got a 2 box set with gold standard in it. So we always talk about the fact that we got the mishmashed boxes. So that's how I started playing. And my son was younger then, but he was enjoying wrestling. He's not as much as wrestling now as he was when he was a little younger. So we sat down and we learned how to play the game. So my first character in the game I played was Big Shot. So I was playing Big Shot for a little while. Dylan, my son, was playing Rising Sun. So we would do locals. We go to the legendary realms games, try here and there, and I tried Big Shot for a while, and then I wanted to move, and I played Johnny Gargano for a bit. I got a hold of a Johnny Gargano. I have since traded Johnny Gargano away. But I played Johnny Gargano for a little bit, and we were sitting at, I think we're sitting at Legendary Realms, and then and Boss was there, and Sam was there, and we're just chatting. And I said, look, I said, Steve, I said, I you know what I do and what I am, and I know I'm a tertiary figure in the world of professional wrestling, but I said, I'd love to get Mr. PoppinTwist in this game. How can I get Mr. PoppinTwist in this game? He said, well, as luck would have it, we're going to have this competition, and you should get into the competition. So that's what I did. So I applied and put myself in, and my whole point, even when I was like promoting, was the fact that I'm actually who I say I am. There are, this is going back a long time. This is going to, late 2016, early 2017. So the game is a lot different now than it was back then. So I was coming in from the attitude like, well, I know Rage and I know Ricochet, and I a little bit, I didn't know him personally as much as I knew him in passing. And I knew other guys. And so Mr. PoppinTwist is a real guy. So here's another guy you can put inside this game who can walk around and say, look, I'm Mr. PoppinTwist, I'm in this game. And because I was the gimmick that I was portraying in the game. So that was, and the rest, as they say, is history. If anyone's never heard the story or the CCC, but the non kayfabe, non storytelling version, but just a straight up version. I I was in a quad with Lemmy Adam. And in those days, XCW was one of, if not the most powerful entities in all of the LFF. And so I, being a relative nobody, both in Super Show and in anywhere else, I just petitioned the heck and I promoted and just went crazy. And I was winning. And then literally in the last day and a half, it was discovered that you could cheat the system and you could like multiple vote for yourself.
Bots.
And so I didn't even know about that. A friend of mine found this out and he was like, oh, this is what's happening. So because now Lemmy Adam is now streaking at me. So then he goes and he talks to his friends and they start doing it too. So Mr. PoppinTwist and Lemmy Adam are blowing everybody out of the water at this point. And so it's like, and so then they end up having like Steve's like, okay, we have to shut this down. Like it's not work. So they shut down the voting. Lemmy won, but then they subtracted a whole bunch of votes that had happened in that like day when they realized that this had happened. So Lemmy won. I can't deny the fact that that he won. Was there some hinkiness involved? Yes. If you went back to the beginning and tried to figure it out from the beginning, would he have won again? I don't know. That's the thing. So I was a little hot about it. I'm not gonna lie. But Steve was like, look, we got this covered. Just chill. You're gonna, we got this covered. So we went through the other rounds, and even after the removal of the votes, nobody in the other rounds got any higher than my vote total. Leading up to the finals. So they added the wild card round because I earned my way in. I was in the only pod with a guy who could have beat me. Every other pod, I would have just destroyed every other pod. So I got put in that way. I earned my way in that way, and then and then they figured out, we're not going to have this weird voting thing happen anymore. They figured out how to clean that up, and then Steve said, okay, it's gonna come down. We're gonna cut a promo. Can you cut a promo? I was like, yeah, sure. And so I make the comment, and it's mostly true that I brought promos to the CCC. I didn't bring promos to the LFF and to the Super Show game because Steve was cutting promos, and and Newman was, they had Rock Newman promos. So promos were always a part of Super Show, but I bought promos to the CCC. And I knew I was going to be okay with that because I've been talking for a very long time, and talking in front of people is easy. I mean, I come from a theater background, an improv comedy background, so that was no problem. And my promo was actually shot in the Ringside Collectibles studio. So if you're familiar with Ringside Collectibles, they're based on Long Island, and they are the largest retailer of action figures that doesn't come from the secondhand retailer of action figures. They get their action figures directly from Mattel, just like the other places do, but they're not Walmart, they're not Target, they're not Toys R Us. But they also have the Ringside exclusives that they've had that have become a thing over the years, that have become actually some of the most expensive wrestling figures on the secondary market, because they only make so many of them because the license only lasts so long. It's a deal they have to make it exclusive and whatever. But I know the guys from there, so I had their camera guy shoot my promo. So my first promo for the CCC is shot in the same studio that all the Ringside stuff was shot at back in the day. So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just a reminder, folks, this was actually the first CCC that was ever made, and this was, I believe it was 2017.
Yeah,
I had a year under my belt playing, and I've got to tell you, it was fun watching you and Libby Adam, y'all promo back and forth. And then 1 minute, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one promo, Lemmy had a jacket sort of like yours. or
Well,
he made a
yeah, he did something. Yeah, it was kind of like a knockoff kind of thing he put together.
yeah
But yeah, like that was the like, but that the funny part to that, again, much like wrestling is both reality and storyline, so
yeah
is Super Show and LFF. So everything that happens has been adapted and put into the world of the LFF, which is different than Super Show. So there's comic book pages that exist because Steve has been working on the comic book for a very long time, even before they started with the Kickstarter last year. He's always wanted to make it a comic book. That's always been one of his goals. So he would write all these storylines out, or in script form for when these things would happen. So there was actually at one point in time a whole script of the CCC and how and how it would have played out, and it really came down to the idea that it was Mr. PoppinTwist, this underdog versus the entirety of the XCW. Like that was the portrait being painted. Because XCW, again, they were and his the first Lemmy Adam promo was shot at, I think it was Origins. I think it was Origins. He shot it, and the entire XCW was behind him. So it's like so I'm shooting a promo in a studio by myself, and he's shooting a promo with an entire legion of guys behind him. So that was it certainly helped. So it helped me because I'm like, oh, so I realized, like, I'm not just competing against Lemmy Adam. I'm competing against the entire XCW. I'm competing against all the XCW fans. I'm competing against all the XCW friends. So that's why I worked hard, and I was like, so I got Hurricane to retweet my promo on Twitter, and so it's like I tried to work every little flippant angle that I could to like get every little piece. And and so Steve has told me numerous times, like, he goes, it was so close. He goes, it was closer than I ever thought it was going to be. And he goes, and you edged it out. So so when I come out and I cut promos and I talk about being the first singles CCC winner and this and that, it is a point of pride for me. But on top of that, before the CCC ever got started, I told Sam and I told Steve, I said, look, if I get in this game, I promise you, I vow to you right now, if I get in this game, I'm never playing anybody else.
Yep.
And it's a promise that I made to him and to both of them. And except for two situations that didn't allow me to play as myself, I have done just that since 2017. So, that's my other badge of honor, because or I'm just a crazy person and a fool, because I walk into a room, everyone knows who I'm playing. So I'm not tipping my hand per se, but they know who I'm playing. There's no shock to that. And my deck, I keep changing over time a little bit, add stuff, subtract stuff, but I'm pretty much playing this. I'm playing Mr. PoppinTwist with Mr. PoppinTwist finishers, and my goal is to one day take a big prize playing the way I've been playing. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm gonna try. But yeah.
And that
Yeah,
and that's
he's
one and also not also just coming, I took a little leave of absence, but not only that, he's foiled. It's awesome. I love it.
I'm so yeah. Go ahead. All right. I will not, unfortunately, be at Grand Gathering 3. It is my daughter's 13th birthday that weekend, and I am a father first. So I cannot. I'll tell you the honest truth. My goal is to one day pull a TJ Marconi at Grand Gathering. I just want to show up and see what happens, and because no one's going to expect me to be there. Guys, I'm not setting that up as like, Grand Gathering 3. I'm not going to be at Grand Gathering 3. Yeah, I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. But I will say this: I don't know who has Mr. PoppinTwist in the Grand Battle. Does anyone know who has that list gone out yet?
No,
right.
No clue.
When it goes out, I don't know who's going to have it. But if Mr. PoppinTwist, if the person playing Mr. PoppinTwist wins, and Mr. Poppin's wins the grand battle, I've got something lined up, but I won't. I'll keep it, on the down low for now. But that's my promise that if someone can take Mr. PoppinTwist to the top at the grand battle, then I'm gonna make something cool happen.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's 200. I mean, 265, 300,
Probably
what,
more than that.
400 now. Oh my god! Like when I got into the game, I think there was less than 75 competitors in the game.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, it's just it astounds me how many characters are, and that's why it's like so it's like going back when you said before about I got foiled. I'm so thankful to people like Pagillo and Fox, and because they said they did it, like they foiled it so they could get their own copy because they couldn't get it otherwise.
Hmm.
So that's great for them. I appreciate, it's like, I, at this point in my LFF career, as far as Mr. PoppinTwist, the competitor, there's nothing, there's nothing else I need to do to be embroiled, in the game. I have a competitor card. I have a foiled competitor card. I have an alt art competitor card, not alt art finishers, but an alt art competitor card. Right. Yeah, I'm very pleased, and Fox made that happen. I have a tag team. I have a triad. No, I'm sorry, yeah, a trios. I mean, yeah, I said triad. I meant trios. I have a trios. I have I have a belt card, and I have one card where I'm actually on the actual art, just randomly on a card. There's nothing else. I mean, on one hand, I mean, blessed. I also feel like guilty because I got a lot in there, and it's all from the generosity of the people who I've met and befriended and talked with and had a good time with over the years. But as far as that, so I mean, I'm like, there's nothing else inside the game I would need. But and I'm thankful to have every bit of it. And anytime someone wins with PoppinTwist, or I have a short list of people who I call my personal PoppinTwist club. They're the ones who have pushed it, pushed the character, and moved it much further than I can. As I said, I'm a B+ player. I try my best, but people play me better than I play myself. And the tag team with Rage was was honestly the cherry on top of the sundae, because I've known him, I've known him a long time. He was part of the beginnings of Mr. PoppinTwist being in the LFF, because we had the tag team match. We lost the initial LFF tag team title match against TJ Marconi and the boss Steve Rest, but we had great promos leading up to that, and I know Rage, I know his family, and they're all great people. And so it's like, so to have that, it was like full circle, because the last thing I received for my tenure in Super Show was a card tag team with Rage. Okay, I'm good. Do you have one of those?
Sadly, I don't.
Okay,
I
all
need
right,
one.
all right. I have one, so I will hook you up. That's not a problem.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Well, there's only one bigger Rage fan, honestly. I mean, Taylor's a big Rage fan too, but Taylor's also on Long Island. So when you think about guys who aren't on Long Island who are Rage fans, it's got to be Dustin, the biggest Rage fan I know, outside of the Long Island, New York area.
First
So
guilty, but he's always been good to me. He sent me
yeah.
posters and everything. So
Oh, he's great. Yeah, no, yeah. So we'll make that happen. I got one.
thank you so much.
Okay. Pineapple. Oh, horse. Well, I'm allergic to cats, so I have to say dog.
Nico's not in here, thankfully.
Oh boy. I mean, no offense by this, Candyman Dan. Um, oh, Nightmare King.
Okay. OG.
Yeah. Candyman Dan has he's I've had the opportunity to play against him a couple of times and play at events where he was at, and he's just one of those guys that that really takes like he pays attention to every part of a game. People make mistakes. We all make mistakes. You play a card in the wrong place or whatever, and he's just so dialed in on that kind of stuff. Like you can like almost just count on that. Like when you're playing against, if he's in the room, you're not gonna make a mistake because he's gonna catch it. That too. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. No. I mean, again, like I always comment about the fact that I'm a child of the 70s. So I basically got to grow up through like a lot of these things these cultural things that have defined generations. Like I made the comment to a friend of mine not the other day. I had an Atari 2600 when it first came out. Before that, I had Pong, for the TV, and it's like so because my dad was young when I was born. My dad was 19 when I was born. So for my dad, he was still young himself. So I was brought up with like my dad would get the toys and we play with the toys, I've grown up through, so like my son plays video games, he's 17, he plays videos all the time. But I'm like, yeah, I'm of the generation literally that was born of the video game. Like, we predate. So wrestling for me, like I was, I actually used to watch the Superstation TBS, the NWA stuff, the Crockett stuff. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because and I used to watch, because we got cable, I think cable TV too. Got cable TV where like I already talked about the first cable box we ever had was in the late 70s, early 80s, and it looked like the bottom of a blender with the little buttons, and every time you pushed a button, the next button would pop up, and it was and that's what the table box was. And you had 13 channels and a dial. You switch down, you had 13 more channels, which was like amazing. And my grandfather would come to my house when I was a tiny kid. My grandfather would come to the house. He didn't have cable. He would lay on the couch with the box on his chest and just sit there at the TV and change the channels like this. So I didn't know WWF back then, but I knew, I knew, like, I knew the guys, that were on Jim Crockett and all that kind of stuff. Watching 605 on TBS Superstation, and that's on every Saturday, 605. So I started watching, wrestling then, and then I got into, like, and like everybody else, it's like, so now, the MTV generation. So you've got the War to Settle the Score, which was when WWF really got the setup for WrestleMania. So I start I watched War to Settle the Score, and then then you're watching the Hulk Hogan, rest of the Hulk Hogan and Friends, the cartoon show on Saturday morning. You know, so I was always a wrestling fan more than I was a fan of one product or the other, because I was always watching them both. I would watch Roddy Piper because I was a huge Roddy Piper guy, but I would watch WCW when it became WCW. But I'd watch, I'm watching Ric Flair, classic Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and all, that's, as wrestling was becoming, as wrestling was getting that big push that was happening in the 80s, I was right there riding that wave like everybody else. So yeah, and then also it didn't hurt the fact that I grew up, I was born in Delaware, and I moved to a little town in Pennsylvania when I was in the first grade. and that little town was about 25 minutes away from Hershey. And Hershey Arena has been a host for WWF, WWE wrestling events for as long as I can remember. So it wouldn't. So I'm, so I go to the occasional wrestling show at Hershey Arena, and then when I was 16, I get a job working at Hershey Park, and when the wrestlers would come to Hershey Arena, they would walk through the park, and I was in the store like right across the main, like one of the entrances. So the story I tell. I'm 16 years old. My way out of the park walked past the back of the arena, and then I walked to the cafeteria to have my lunch. So I walked back from the cafeteria, and as I walked back from the cafeteria, I turn the corner, and there's this giant white limousine, and out steps Hulk Hogan in all of his blue and white post no holds barred glory. But I literally almost ran into him, like physically ran into him, because he was getting out of the limo, and whoa, sorry, hey, it's okay. But people were like climbing over the top of the fence to see Hulk Hogan get out of this limo. So it's like I got to like experience, but not experience what that must feel like. They weren't cheering for me. They don't care. They don't care who I am. I'm a 16-year-old kid, but that you could not be affected by that wave.
That was a larger
energy
life moment.
Oh yeah, I've never, and it's to this day, it's funny. I do a lot of different events. I've never actually spoken with Hulk Hogan, other than that little like, hey, it's okay, we're not running into me, But I went to New York Comic Con years ago, and he was signing at New York Comic Con, and the funny part of that story was Jason David Frank was also signing at that Comic Con. His line was about 1,000 yards down from his desk. Hulk Hogan had 5 guys in line.
Wow.
But it's not a knock. It wasn't that Hulk Hogan wasn't famous. He was famous. Yeah. But the problem was Hulk Hogan was asking a lot of money. And, people didn't have the money at that time to do his, whatever. So be it. But they had him cut a promo for New York Comic Con, and they went and walked him over to Jason David Frank's line and told all the guys to cheer for Hulk Hogan. Yeah. And he's like, here we are, brother. Here we are, New York Comic Con. But everyone behind him is wearing Power Ranger gear. Got Green Ranger masks on. It's like, oh yeah, all right. But yeah, but I've never actually spoken to him. I made balloons of him. I made a balloon of him that a friend took and gave him at an event, at a signing. I've never actually met or spoken to in a meaningful way Hulk Hogan. Maybe one day I will. You never can, But that's how I got involved in wrestling. But then but as far as like being a fan, and then there were 3 times in my life I almost went to wrestling school. And for some reason or another, I didn't do it. Because I've always loved that aspect. I'm an entertainer. I tell people, like, even when I do my balloon work, I'm an entertainer first and a balloon artist second, because I've been in front of audiences since I was a young kid. My dad's a magician. My dad's he's semi-retired now, but he did shows all over the place. Like the stage shows with the assistants and and all that kind of stuff. So I was raised around being in front of an audience and performing in front of people. So, and I've been musical theater. Like I said, I've been in 25 different musical theater and shows and plays. I've done improv comedy, in various places. It's like, so I love to be in front of an audience. That's the easy part for me. The balloon twisting part, that's the hard part. But, but wrestling to me is like the ultimate in entertainment. And there's so much from, there's so much from the, carnival stuff and vaudeville, and there's and the pageantry of the whole thing. So that's why I've always taken to it. And then so like Mr. PoppinTwist, I kind of work my way. I market myself the way a wrestler would market himself, not because I want to be a wrestler or I think I am a wrestler, because I'm not a wrestler and I'm never going to be one. But I have skills that I think I could use to help guys and be a part of that kind of thing, so that's why I started years ago. I started running camera, ringside camera for local indie shows. So they post their stuff on the internet. And through that I started meeting wrestlers, and then at the same time I started twisting balloons. And so like I've made the comment numerous times, like, a lot of guys have come out of wrestling from Long Island, and especially now there's a big crop of guys who've come out, who have come out or are still moving, from that. And I feel like I'm like their wacky uncle, because I've been around it for so long, and I've been around it. Like, I've been doing balloons at this wrestling show and that wrestling show. I'm not to blow up his spot or anything, but I made balloons for MJF before he was MJF. You
Oh
know,
wow.
and it's like, and to see what he's doing is absolutely amazing, and he's doing something that nobody else can really do, or has tried to do. I mean, he's all in on the concept, and he's done a great job. Um, but if I think even to this day, if and I might be sorely mistaken, but even to this day, if I were to see him on the street, I'm sure we would stop and have a conversation. Because I watched him train. I watched him come up. There's a lot of guys I've watched come up, and it's like, because I've always been like, I'm just there, they're wrestling and I'm making the balloon. A kid who wrestles here on Long Island, his name is Dante Drago. I made him a balloon at a wrestling show a couple months ago, and he said, "Dude, it's the bucket list item for me. I got a PoppinTwist balloon." I was like, that made me feel so good, because that's what I'm trying to do, like there was that. I don't know if you guys watch Young Rock. You guys watch Young Rock at all on
I watched
NBC?
I haven't yet.
I got sucked into that show. It's fun, but there was this whole thing. He had this conversation. This last episode, the one that just aired, he's in the kitchen having a conversation with Hulk Hogan, because they were in Florida, he bought his parents a house with his WWE and movie money. He bought a house for his parents. So there was a housewarming party. So all these guys that because he knew a lot of these old school guys when he was 15 years old because of his dad. So there's this conversation where they're, "Oh, you made it, Dewey," and he's talking about to Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan's like, you get to a point and you think, is that all there is? Or can you push through that ceiling and try to go just one more foot higher and see what's on the other side? And that's what motivates me as a performer, because I've done some cool things. I've done some really cool things, but I wonder if I can push one more foot and see what's on the other side of that ceiling. And since like, so, and I'd love to, and I mean, obviously Super Show has given me that part. I cut, again, I'm humbled on a weekly, daily basis, when it comes to things like I also have a bit of an ego. I'm the first person to say I have a bit of an ego, and I lead with that. It's a shield, but I have one. But you have to, if you're an entertainer. I think you have to have an ego. So there was that thing. I don't know if you guys saw. But South Bell posted something about great promo work from people like Eddie Fury and Danny Thunder, and I responded as Mr. PoppinTwist, and I was like, yeah, okay, if that's the first two names you think of, then I have to have a conversation. I need a better publicist. But then Doug said, like, in response, like, yeah, Danny and I have taken the ball and run with it, but Mr. PoppinTwist was doing it before we got here. And I was like, well, I appreciate that. It's nice. It's nice to be acknowledged. It's nice to be to know you had a something that you made a contribution. Now, Mr. Poppins would say that. Mr. Poppins would say that guys like Danny Thunder and Eddie Fury are building a tower on my shoulders. But I'm not going to do that, because that's what Mr. Poppins does, and not me. Mr. Poppins is like one of those guys. Like, honestly, I think in my head, how I look at it is if he were an actual wrestler in the day, he would be Um, he would be a tweener, not because he's a heel, he's not, but because he's cocky. So he's a good guy, but he's a cocky good guy, and that might turn people off, the wrong way, and or whatever. But he would be a tweener. He'd be in that like Jake the Snake Roberts kind of vein, where it's like,
Kind of like a
do you like him, or do you not like him? Like I've cut promos where Steve's like, oh, you're going heel, and I'm like, I'm not really going heel. I'm going ego. I'm going hard.
Like, not really a villain, but kind of like an anti-hero. Like,
yeah, it's just he's a good guy, but he's full of himself. It's like when I was acting, when I was coming up, and I would walk into a room, and I would walk an audition, and I would walk into an audition and go, okay, I'm gonna leave with a part unless you can do something better and beat me. Because I wanted to come with my best, and I want people to come with their best. If their best is better than mine, then so be it. You guys earned it, and that's great. But if I walk in, and I'm you have to earn it. That's all there is to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I heard that, Mr. PoppinTwist, you mentioned Nightmare King. Um, yes, it's true. The Nightmare King had you back in the day. He did, but I'm better than him. So that's beyond the point. That's beyond the point. That's beyond the point. I have two simple questions for you, sir. Um, who is your dream opponent in LFF?
Oh, all right. It's a short list because the cool thing about living on Long Island is I face, like I said, I made the comment. I play John P all the time. So playing John P is like, okay, yeah, no. I gotta be honest. I've never ever faced Kirk Polka, and I think that because of the history and everything in LFF, I'd love to have the opportunity to face Kirk Polka. But that would be like like in general. There's a whole list of guys I'd love to face in person. Like I've played against Hardcore Harry, but I'd love to play him in person. I'd love to play against Mark Perry in person. I'd love to play against Eddie Fury in person. We've all played online, but I've never actually played Mark Perry online, but I've played the other two online. Me and online don't get along. I've tried it. I cannot get a handle on playing online. It's not my thing. Yeah, and I want to, because I was saying we're driving to when we were driving into Rumble at the Rumble. I was driving with John and John P. And I said my thing is I portray myself, and I'm a brand ambassador for SRG Universe. Whenever I go anywhere, I'm always repping my the fact that I'm in the game, or I'll bring up the game. If I'm talking to wrestlers at an event, I've pitched Super Show to a bunch of different guys. But I always feel and I always feel like I said before, I've been very, very lucky and humbled by the cool stuff that has come my way. And I sometimes have like imposter syndrome. Like I don't feel like I earned it. I'm not playing enough to score the rep. I'm not, or I'm losing or whatever. And John's like, no, he's like, and he's like, yeah, you come and you play and you represent the game, and that's all. That's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, not everyone plays online. And I'm one of those guys. I bought the camera I'm using right now. I bought for the purposes of playing online, and I can't. There's just I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just not being in it and not getting that back and forth that you get from playing live, or I just can't pay attention to what's happening on the play mat with what's when it's not in front of me. I don't know. I mean, or just the whole thing, like the die roll, or you know, all the questions that come for like, what have you played, what haven't you played? I feel like I'm giving up too much information. I don't know. It just feels, I can't do it. I'm envious of those who can. I'm envious of those who can, and I'm glad they're doing it, because they kept Super Show alive at a time where it was not having a lot of fun. When we couldn't play in person anywhere. So I'm thankful for anyone who did play online, because it's but yeah, I mean, I think I made it. I don't know if I told you this, Dustin, 2 years ago. I don't know if I told you this, but I have this like weird pipe dream. If I ever hit the lottery, I would take a month and I would travel to all the hotbeds in this country for Super Show and play everybody in all. I'd go to Atlanta. I would go to to Ohio. I would go to Vegas. Like, I would go to all these places, and that would be like the dream for me, to play all these guys in person.
I got 3 bedrooms in Kentucky, buddy. You're more.
anyways, here's my other question to you, Dale.
Yes, sir.
One more little question. If you were in any company and you went after the tag team titles, which company will you go to, and who will you bring for your tag team partner?
Who would I bring for? Okay, okay, like all time, or like current?
It can be anyone. It can be anyone that you want to bring with you, and it can be any company.
I mean, all right. I would honestly, I think I would love to go to AEW and take Rage. But
there you go.
But that's the in my heart, but Lifetime, like if I had to look at it in like Lifetime, I would want to win the WCW tag titles with Booker T.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
That's basically it. That's basically it for me. Carry on, guys.
Thank you, Dark Prince.
No problem.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, now I'm on the spot. All right. Let's see. So Dustin, so wait, what's your schedule like in August? No, I'm kidding. I just show up in
My
Kentucky.
birthday.
Yeah, your birthday. Happy birthday. I show up. No. All right. No, so it's a self-serving question, but
Okay.
I will ask. How did you first get a hold of a Mr. PoppinTwist card? I'm honestly curious about this, because I'll follow up in a second when you're done.
So, trying to think back, which I've been playing a long time too. I come in late 2016. I remember when the CCC. I remember all throughout. I bought yours online.
Okay.
As soon as they went on sale, I had bought one. Rage was actually the first competitor I ever bought.
That's it. That's he's great. His gimmick is great, and I mean, this is back in the day when he had one finisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to play sharpshooter and something else with it.
But the reason why I ask is because I'm curious, because I see all these collections go up for sale.
Yeah,
and I also know, like that the people were looking for Mr. PoppinTwist for a while, and after it's sold out. And I know because Mr. PoppinTwist was part of the Kickstarter package back in the day. Mm-hmm. So anybody who supported the Kickstarter at like the baseline level got a Mr. PoppinTwist.
Yep.
So I wonder, because I know there's a handful of guys I know who play him regularly. The Matt Barones and the Pagillos and Taylor and Schmidt, Fox. Like those are the guys that they play him regularly. But whenever I see these collections go up for sale, it's very rare I see a Mr. PoppinTwist in that collection being sold. And I always wonder, is it because they don't want to sell it, or they don't have it? So I don't know.
Little column A, little
curious.
column B.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it said, I've been around a while, so I'm just, I'm just, you would think you would. I feel like you would think. I think you'd see more Mr. PoppinTwist show up in these collections that are being sold, especially like the old school guys. So I saw one. I saw one pop up the other day. I saw one not too long ago. But as a whole, I don't see them ever. I look up because I have an ego. I look every time.
Okay. And do you have a question for me?
Yes, I have a question for you. All right. So who I had it in one of my head. Hold on, I'll come back. I literally it shot out of my head because I had two questions at once. I tried to merge them, and they came out like some sort of Brundlefly thing, and that was kind of messed up. Old school reference on that one. Who was the inspiration for your character in the LFF?
My original design for Chibi was based off of a Black Templar from Warhammer 40.
Okay.
That's where you get the laurel, you get the crosses, you get the color scheme and stuff like that.
Right, it's awesome, and you crossed over from another, like like Kirk Polka and a couple other guys. Like you bring other aspects of other games into this game.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for your time, Mr. PoppinTwist. It is.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Dustin, what do we have for next week? And you have something special you want to show off.
Okay, so this is funny. So this is like the third time this has happened on a show. I don't know if it's coincidence. I don't know if it's predictions, spoilers, or what. Next week, Mr. Las Vegas himself, Eddie Fury, is our guest. AKA, I call him Cousin Eddie from like Vegas Vacation. But but I want to say, Mr. PoppinTwist, I'm glad to have you a second time, of course.
I'm happy to be here.
When also, I want to thank you while I was gone. You stayed in touch with me, and you said one thing. You said when I sold my collection, you said, "Did you keep yourself?" And I always remember you always keep a PoppinTwist, and I appreciate you staying in touch with me and always being
my pleasure. You're a good guy. I mean, the bottom line, I say this is not to take away because it's what I lead with in any conversation with. When people want to leave the game for whatever reason, that's their reason, and I'm not getting involved in that. Yeah. But if you're going to leave the game, keep something, give yourself an out, because you keep one deck, and especially if you have yourself, keep yourself because you earned it and you made it happen, and because then. Because there are people in this game. I'm not going to name any names, but if you're around long enough, you've seen them. I'm out. I sell it all. I don't care. And then all of a sudden, they're trying to buy it back up again.
Yeah.
And it's like, forget this. I'm done. I don't care. And then they're, oh no, you got this. You got this. You got this. Well, you know what? If you keep one deck, you at least got something.
But I appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, and you wanted to show off something, Dustin?
Oh, and also, just a little spoiler. I have a new alternate art GPS coming out.
Ooh.
On the cover, it's gonna have my good buddy. He's always I always say GPS. So I like to make my paths, but my buddy Ken Fouché, the Grim Librarian, has always kept me on the straight path, and and I wanted to put him kind of like a manager. So this is a new GPS that's coming out hopefully soon. Just a little spoiler of the face card.
It looks great. All right.
A little bit more buff.
Oh, definitely more.
There you go. Nice. Well, that's it.
But
that's it.
Can I get a bye, man?
And I'll see y'all later.
Bye, man.